Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Pinball Arcade. Last time we played Big Hurt, which despite the name not really making sense in 2021, was a baseball themed table around a player named Big Hurt as a nickname. It wasn't a particularly good table because it barely had anything you could shoot at, and its one gimmick, which was a very high angular jump ramp in the center of the table, was not interesting enough to keep my attention. Next, we're going to do Indianapolis 500, which, thank goodness, will be the end, I think, of pretty much all realistic sports tables for a while. We had done Wipeout and Whitewater and Champion Soccer, which World Championship Soccer, World Champion Soccer. It was about the only good one so far we've seen. And after that, there is really only No Good Gophers, which is a golf themed game. And like we had already seen with Even Teed Off some other sports games. I'm not sure if we really had anything else that was really sports themed related. I have kind of confirmed that 1995 is about the time when pinball dies, and that definitely makes a lot of sense why all of a sudden there's just considerably fewer tables now, and then only with a slight reboot do we have some tables coming out in 2000. I've been watching a Twitch streamer who plays pinball, and boy, I have to kind of applaud Pinball Arcade for at least figuring out a way to display the whole table better than what you have to do to convert a real pinball table to make it be displayable on pinball on streaming services like Twitch or YouTube, because like most streamers that I've seen, of the couple I've watched, seem to put the table on the side of the screen in a fashion where you really can't see anything that's going on. It's just not zoomed in enough. They have to put another camera looking at the LCD screen. They have to then put a face camera, or at least they feel the need to put a face camera, often then another chat camera, often maybe even a fourth camera to look specifically at the hands of the player. So the screen just gets super cluttered with visual garbage that's not that useful, and it just doesn't quite feel good. And in all fairness, I'm playing the games directly, so maybe watching someone else play pinball, even if they were using Pinball Arcade as in our emulator, wouldn't feel the same. Talking talking about Indianapolis, the Indy 500 makes a lot of sense thematically to convert into a pinball, because you're basically going in circles in the Indy 500 anyways. You kind of are always going in circles in pinball too. There's only so many shots, so many ramps, so many sinkholes you can hit. In the end, the process of the steps does become circular. So it should be a fairly easy translation to a pinball game. Plus, you already have two high-speed games that are around racing, and I'm sure some have other pinball tables that are around racing. Indy 500 1995 is a high-speed table designed by Dennis Nordman. Players' reflexes are challenged by the fastest game around as they take on the role of the Indianapolis 500 driver in the greatest spectacle in auto racing. A unique turbo lock unit saves balls in its rotating chamber and sends them screaming back down to the flippers for intense multiple action. Another feature unique to this table are the light up targets that display the player's progress right on the target's face. To top it all off, a mini IndyCar races around the track to create one-of-a-kind shaker motor as players are tasked with going head-to-head with other drivers. 2,249 of these tables were produced. We're seeing these numbers just get smaller and smaller. Another thing I would say about watching the this supposed pro who is streaming on Twitch that I'm following, is he's not particularly having any better luck on some of the tables. I've been watching him play tables that aren't in Pinball Arcade instead of playing tables that I've already played or seen. But like even modern games that came out in the 2010s to the 2020s seem to have an occasion to have really hard shots, really hard out lanes. There is basically no cure-all that was ever applied to pinball as far as getting the angles. Although he did point out an interesting open source project called Pinball Visual Designer Studio or something like that. Sorry if that's not close enough to the real name that you could Google it. But it's this like open source program where you can literally design your own pinball tables and emulate them enough that you can actually play the shots and test the angles. And wow, it was actually a little surprising that it existed, because I would have assumed, pinball being such a niche product, that the pros at Stern and the few other table designers out there, Jersey Jacks and such, were all just relegated to using something like AutoCAD to draft the tables, or Photoshop to do the videos, or maybe they would use something like Unity or Unreal Engine, a video game engine, to model the tables in 3D, or the maybe professional version of Blender, which is the free 3D modeling software. So balls get up here in this spinner. Interesting. I thought the balls were going to get up here, but the more I look at it, it seems to me like that is going to literally just be visual only. And it's just going to spin around in circles and shake the table because it's going to be slightly weighted. I don't even know how much it really could shake the table, but we'll see. Of course, shaker effects in the emulated game is only going to be so much. So, yeah, if I didn't have so many other things that I needed to do, I'd probably use that Pinball Visual Studio to try and make some concepts myself. But if you did build the concept, it doesn't really fix any, it doesn't mean you're going to find anybody that could actually build it for you. So then you'd end up having to learn a lot of different construction techniques as far as building things in electronics and building things with spot welding, or probably not even spot welding. These are probably electro riveted, whatever that's called, where you have two pieces of metal and you throw 10,000 volts between them and they get so hot they weld themselves together to make the ramps. That's probably how those are built, and like plastic forming and molding. There's just a lot of disciplines as far as construction that you would have to learn to build your own table. Really, one person is not going to do a great job at it. And I don't think you could go to Stern or Jersey Jack or any of the other small pinball table designers and say, here's my design. I want you to build me one of these. And they may say yes, but they probably would say, okay, we'll do that, but it's $100,000. Or I think more likely they'd say no, or they'd say yes, but we want the license to the design because we're going to make 1,000 units and sell it to other people too. So yeah, looking at this table, there's a ball saver, several different rewards going around a lap, with a statue in the middle that's kind of dark. Yeah, I have noticed that real world pinball tables also are fairly darker than what happens in the game, where some of the colors on the table do feel like they're emitting light when they don't have a light behind them. This table's not actually that bad on that. You have 3 standing targets, hit them all. Over on that side, it looks like there's one standing target, which is a wrench that probably activates a kickback if there is a kickback. You have a ramp that seems to go around into the top lane, which is the pit stop, and then you have 3 smaller pop-up bumpers. Then you have another ramp that goes up and around all the way to the left flipper, so you can hit that ramp over and over again. You have these 3 unique standing targets that have 3 different lights on them. Even in 2021, it would be very weird to have a standing target that had a tiny, like 80 by 80 pixel LCD or OLED on it. You could do that certainly, but you just break the screen fairly quickly, and you couldn't display that much information with an 80 by 80 pixel screen anyways. And getting at higher densities, where the resolution would be higher, where you could actually display something, would be too expensive for very little benefit, because you would be displaying something so small anyways that you couldn't see even standing in front of the table. There's a sneak in shot here, there's another wrench shot here, there's another one of these light up standing targets, there's a center shot here. This ramp goes up this way and then loops back to that, so you can do a 2-shot combo on that, which makes me think there's probably maybe a 3-shot combo where you hit this ramp and then maybe hit this ramp. No, that wouldn't work. It may just be a 2-shot combo where you hit this ramp and then this sinkhole. And then there's a curve around that brings you back to the top lane from the looks of it. This is another one of these tables that doesn't feel fully fleshed out. It seems like Bailey and the other pinball companies in 1995 were running out of money. They were selling less and less units. They were just getting trounced by video games all over the place. And so, like, pinball wasn't just competing against other pinball developers. It was competing against every other form of entertainment. And we certainly saw that things like jukeboxes and listening to the radio and reading books and playing records and lots of forms of entertainment didn't completely die out, but extremely reduced. And a lot of events certainly have pretty much almost completely died out. Going to drive-through movies now is not something people on average typically ever do in their lifetime. Let's see, we're going to try and score a skill shot, score a hit the wall, shoot wrench targets into dispelling the complete light up wave, and start turbo multiple. What's interesting about the hit the wall concept is nowadays, as racing companies will be willing to license their brand, they have become incredibly safety concerned. So the idea of glorifying or even mentioning that cars sometimes hit a wall in a race is something that would not happen these days. That's another one of those launches that shoots the ball up barely anywhere.
Driver 1 is making a run for the pole.
And I suppose highlights the fact that it had just been a cultural touchstone to pull a plunger or hit a button to launch a ball. So, but there's nothing that really would stop you from having a table that launched the ball somewhere else or from a different place. The sound effect certainly. The sound effects certainly do make it feel like they want you to go around the loops on the outside over and over again. Indie racing doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I think a lot of people, in that you're often doing like 500 laps or more.
We haven't seen a shot of the turbo yet from this driver. That's right, Paul.
So,
he may not even know that upper flipper's there. That's 25 laps for driver 1.
Interesting that the game is making commentary on my play. That's kind of groundbreaking. But yeah, real indie racing is pretty boring. And it highlights a sport that was created for.
That was a great shot.
That was a skill shot.
Skies above. The weather is perfect. We have a tremendous field of competitors. They're ready to roll towards the green.
Like this was clearly a sport designed for rich people to drive their cars around and show off and enjoy their cars. It was not a sport designed to be observed by the general masses, and they had to kind of convert it into something that would appeal. And as the evolution of races continued to happen, more and more it became less of an open day where you could drive, anyone could drive their car, and it became a celebrity experience that only
another one means a guaranteed multi-ball.
Now it's celebrity drivers who are professionals. I think that is kind of true also for like football and other sports, where originally it could be just anybody playing football, and now NFL has intensified football, American football, so much that the experience of playing football in the minds of people is this hyper demanding physical experience with pads and referees. And if you wanted to play football in the back of your yard, you're playing two below or tag football or touch football, which doesn't feel like what the football has become. They've effectively rebranded the sport to make it exclusive to professionals and make it marketable and selling it to people. What once was a game that anyone could enjoy cheaply and easily has now been turned into a commodity that you have to have the permission of the NFL effectively to enjoy by watching their shows and buying tickets to their games. Even non-NFL football, like college football and such, has been effectively eliminated in the minds of most consumers as being acceptable to watch. And they did that by just rabid fandom growing and propaganda and
excellent shot.
A lot of visual effects, certainly.
Another one means a guaranteed multi-ball.
So the spinning car on this table that's supposed to be a table shaker is causing my controller on a rare occasion to vibrate, but the vibration is particularly weak, so I'm not hyper impressed with it. I feel like part of the problem there is the fact that it's at the very top of the table. That was a complete light up wave, standard goal. Which I don't even know what that was, but okay.
That's 25 laps for driver
Yeah.
1.
I feel like the shaker needs to be in the center and lower to the table so that you have more of a pendulum effect. Like, and honestly, what I would have liked to see here, instead of a table shaker at the top with a car spinning around, I would have liked to see a miniature toy car, like a micro machine, which should have been around at that time, that was magnetically controlled, running under the field of the table, going in circles around the races, or it could be on the track and not using a magnet. It wouldn't even be insane to have a magnetized ball on the field going around the track, and you could bump into it and cause a crash like the mist in the Bram Stoker's Dracula. So we're looking for the wrench targets, the spell indie, and turbo multi-ball. We kind of know how to do both of those.
There are blue Indiana skies above. They're on the move behind the pace car now. The cars are on the backstretch now. They're beginning to line
So
up.
lighting up the 4 LED standing targets, which I guess aren't actual drop targets. I don't know what that actually does, other than it implies to me what they've squeezed into it is they wanted you to hit these standing targets a total of 12 times, and they wanted to not have 4 LEDs in front of it to indicate that.
Nice shot.
That left out lane seems to be pretty deadly on this table. You're in a weird position with race games in general, because there's a couple different routes you can take with a racing game. You could say, well, let's focus on the cars and make the cars look interesting. In Indy 500, I don't think that's so much a focus, but that certainly has been a focus with a lot of other racing video games where they do get real-world models of cars, and they have to pay for licenses and often agree to not allow those cars to show any damage ever, as if cars can magically never take damage. Well, I think I should always take extra ball on that shot.
That driver took the wrong turn. He's heading out the tunnel and onto the street.
Pit stop is lit.
This driver could pit anytime, Paul. That's 25 laps for driver
Let's
1.
see. What I'd like to be able to do is have a sneak-in shot
Out of the pit. Get out
with the lower
Wow, what a
clips.
great pit stop.
Alright, so the pit stop gives you a 2-ball quick multi-ball. Now, I think it's worth mentioning in multi-ball, I don't do this, but there's a lot of pros that will capture one multi-ball and only play with one flipper at a time during multi-ball. And sure, slowing down the play and taking your time will almost certainly guarantee you better experience and better outcomes. It's just an incredibly boring, hideous way to play pinball and during a multi-ball. Like, I'm much more happy scoring less and just limiting my targeted shots to single ball modes and then going to standard flipper craziness when multi-ball starts. It's also worth mentioning that in a 3-ball multi-ball, you have to be particularly good to be able to trap not 1 but 2 balls on on a flipper. And I've seen some players do even 3 balls trapped on and held on a flipper. And then they have the skill and the experience. And those are all just skills I've never polished up and never wanted to really learn. Of course, that could also just be taken as an excuse for my poor skill in multi-balls. But one of the things I try to do when playing any video game is experience the game the way a large percentage of players, the average player, is going to experience it. So if I was going to play a flight simulator game, for instance, I probably can't justify buying a like $1,000 heads-up display with joysticks and flight cockpit emulator stuff. That's just not, that's not realistic. That's not what the average player is going to play. The average player is going to experience a flight simulator game with either a mouse and keyboard or a controller, and I will take the controller if it's an option every time. Same is true here. I literally have a pinball control deck. I scored hit the wall by hitting 50 laps. Interesting. Instead of actually hitting this hit the wall blinking target. Maybe I did hit the wall blinking target and just didn't see it. But that bottom shot there, that's a tough shot to get that lower blinking hit the wall standing target. 334, that feels like a reasonable amount of score for that ball.
Great move.
So I suppose what we're trying to do here is get the blinking, there's all the wrench targets. I suppose we're trying to get all the lights lit around the lap, which that's quite a lot of things that you'd have to accomplish. And so far I'm not pulling that off great. I have in less than 30 minutes gotten all the standard goals, which that's almost becoming normalized for me. That might be an argument against any game curation or collection of pinball tables, is that by the time you've played 60 or 70 of them, you may have just gotten so warmed up and so skilled at playing pinballs that another 60 wouldn't present a challenge.
That was a great shot. There's a pass by driver 1.
I'm not a huge fan of these top lane shots. Although I did like it in high speed, they open a lot of realm for missed shots because it can come down at different speeds. So ideally, what I would like to see is a way that the ball gets held and then released in front of the flipper in the top right. Which I have seen a table that actually does that, so it is something. The best way to do that would just to be have a sinkhole and a gate that locks right on the right loop around. So now the wizard goals are earn the checkered flag, earn race cow, complete 200 laps, advance to first place, and score a super jackpot. Which it must be harder to score a super jackpot than it seems, because that feels like that would be relatively easy. Light change setup.
go now to Gasoline Alley.
Pass the green car.
So, the thing about the spinning lights on the standing targets is it's kind of hard to tell if they're blinking, if they have a special focus that you were supposed to hit them. So they kind of need another blinking light in front of them anyways. Or they at least need a different animation other than spinning around in circles. Let's see. Light lock is probably the one you want. Or light multi-ball. Seems like it's not giving you the same options always. Seems like that one standing target is kind of in a dangerous position because it bounces the ball back. Let's see. And so it's showing you percentages of how close you are to 4 different modes. I really hate this launch though. It's no good. It's not thematically interesting. It's not getting the ball on the field with specific speed or interest or in an interesting way. It doesn't feed to an interesting skill shot. Feels like you could have used that room differently for art, or you could have just had the ball shoot straight up to the loop in the top of the table. Let me show what I'm talking about here. Like, instead of having this launch to this ramp, then hitting this just to land on this, there's basically nothing here other than this flipper circuitry maybe being in the way. But it seems like you could have squeezed the ball right up this ramp, and then it could have gone around this gate and into this ramp, and then launched the ball down to whichever flipper this lane is likely to hit, which probably is the right flipper. Or you could have a skill shot where it goes only halfway and then it rolls back this way and then goes to the other flipper and this top flipper. And then your skill shot would be to use this top flipper to shoot it towards the lock. Yeah, and I think you'd probably want to get rid of one of the wrench or the standing target there. That's too much for a weird angle. And I think you'd want to twist these angles a little bit clockwise so they bounce the ball higher instead of directly into the out lane. So far I've not really seen anything else. You might want to move the wall standing target up a bit higher or rotate it a little bit to try and block the out lane a little bit more.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I do think the focus though should be more around showing cars. I feel like there should be a tire element visually in one way or the other.
Super later.
So like there should be like new tires, new brakes, new things that you can upgrade your car with. A toy of a tire spinning around, even if you just see it and it actually doesn't affect the gameplay, probably feels necessary. This has a visual purplish color palette where I feel like purple is like the color of royalty, where
nice tires.
where green and the grass around a race track would make a lot more sense.
Time to go! Head for the right ramp!
3 jackpots lit.
Okay.
Hurry!
It wants me to hit the right
Jackpots lit.
ramp.
Today! Go, go, go!
Well, actually getting up that ramp.
Go, go! Watch the pit lane!
Only 1 jackpot lit.
So there was some kind of hurry up to hit the right ramp and I missed it. And now we're in 2-ball multi-ball, which is different and asking different things. A lot of places here where the ball is just bouncing. It's not scoring, it's just bouncing off an edge. And we've seen this with lots of other
Looks
tables.
like someone kissed the wall on turn 2.
Wow. Seems like the flippers don't actually cycle because if I press left and then I press right,
For driver 1.
it doesn't seem like that goes back. So I think you pretty much just want to hit a flipper, and then when it's on something you want, stay on that thing you want. Otherwise you're going to be out of luck. You see, many times the upper right flipper feels like it's hit that sinkhole and it's just bounced back. So I would want to open up the sinkhole
Outstanding.
and make it easier to hit, make it wider. You really don't have a lot of other places to target. Center lane shots
We go now to gasoline alley.
and left and right ramp shots. Lighting pit doesn't inherently seem like it increases a score multiplier, and instead lights a 2-ball multi-ball,
What a move.
where I feel like a score multiplier would probably be more meaningful. I feel like the lane change is also in that same position where pressing the left flipper doesn't actually make it cycle backwards, it just makes it cycle forward. Yeah, each flipper has the lane changes you can see. Like this is me pressing the left flipper. Well, I was pressing the left flipper and then I was pressing the right flipper back and forth, and it was just cycling in circles.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine.
Which by 1995 I have to just chalk that up to straight up bad programming.
Racing and a great day for pinball. They're on the move behind the pace car now. Doing their last
And yeah, I did see the inside of a more modern pinball table, and they effectively are having everything a little bit more connected and connected through network type ports and network cord type Ethernet RJ45 jacks, although I imagine they are possibly not RJ45 and are actually closer to phone port connectors, but even that would be kind of expensive to get those kind of connectors, so it would make more sense for it to be RJ45. I've even seen some possibility of HDMI and USB standards being implemented and used as far as the internal connections in modern pinball tables. Oops, I didn't realize I was supposed to be selecting something. They need to make a sound effect play to make that more obvious. This really feels like a table where you just don't have a lot of options.
This driver could fit any time, Paul. Whoa, there's the second lock. We're ready for multi-ball.
So, but there's still a lot of things that connect with just groups of wire connectors that have no interesting standard or anything, and it's not USB. It's not all one circuit board. Doesn't seem like any of them use ribbon cables, which is probably a smart move because ribbon cables would almost certainly not stay together with a lot of shaking. And then, yeah, the vast majority of a pinball table seems to be pretty much empty nowadays, where once they had power supplies and relays filling up all the space of a pinball case, which probably means that, relatively speaking, pinball tables are slightly lighter than they used to be also.
There's a pass by driver 1.
But you're not going to have anything that is sturdy that gets it below 150 pounds, I'm sure. Like, it's just not likely going to happen. Even bookcases that I ordered that aren't even particularly that big of bookcases were like 78 pounds each, just for the wood frames and a false back. So, yeah, unless you implement plastic walls instead of wood walls on pinball, which might work, frankly, you can't get the weight down that much. And TVs have gotten lighter and electronic components have gotten lighter, but not that much.
Ladies and gentlemen,
There are blue Indiana skies above. The weather is perfect.
This is another table where it's not easy to start a mode. I would kind of prefer a sinkhole somewhere here that's easier to hit, that would start a mission. We're not getting real bespoke, different missions happening here.
We're ready for multi-ball, and here we go. Multi-ball.
That's slightly too easy to get a multi-ball. And they want us to get the super jackpot, which I don't know. I don't know what you have to do to get super jackpot. But if it was just hit the right ramp and the left ramp, that seems like that's too easy. By far, to get a super jackpot.
This driver could fit any time, Paul.
The pit concept, we've seen that happen with several other tables where the ball just gets kind of held in the top lane on the left.
We go now to Gasoline Alley.
It's not particularly interesting. Like, oh, there is a bonus multiplier on this table. Just saw that.
Nice shot. That's right, Paul. Taking on fuel race tires. That's 25 laps for driver 1.
I like that there's a sinkhole that bounces the ball.
3 jackpot slip. There's a pass by driver 1.
It bounces the ball directly into the center lane sinkhole.
Right now! Time to go!
Out of the pit, but close to 20 seconds.
So the question is, are you trying to stay in the pit? Or are you trying to get out of the pit? Like in real Indy 500, you would want to get out of the pit as fast as possible. But in pinball mentality, it would make a lot more sense that you would want to keep the ball in the pit with the longest and score with one ball while the other ball is waiting. It kind of feels like with the big standing targets.
Definitely walk away from this one.
There you go. That you could hit the two standing targets with the spinning lights fairly often,
That's one.
but they're gonna just bounce back. The spinner as a concept, I don't think it thematically works. Like, it makes sense that it's trying to add speed to the ball while still flinging the ball in such a way that the ball actually doesn't have a risk of ruining the play, because it speeds up the ball but then hits it to the in lane ramps that then slow down the ball, and most people won't immediately realize that's what's going on. I've got 3 lights lit on the board. But yeah, this table feels like it is just too difficult to actually start another mission. And I bet you don't get the checkered flag
Outstanding.
until you've done everything.
The encounter with the wall on turn 3. The driver's out and he is okay.
There we go. I guess in this instance, the drivers are always safe after they crash, which I suppose that's selling a different fiction.
All right!
That's one.
Off the ball, 413 million points. Hit that.
Turbo boost multi-ball. That's 50 laps for driver
Turbo
1.
boost multi-ball.
Jackpot, Paul.
So turbo is that. So each time I hit the turbo, it increases the jackpot, but do you get a free jackpot after
Break loose.
that?
That's 2. We're ready for multi-ball. And here we go.
Now we're back to regular multi-ball.
Either ramp is worth the jackpot. Jackpot.
So
Left ramp is worth the jackpot.
unless there's a cross shot here,
Triple playfield scoring.
interesting. You'd think that there might be a wizard goal around getting a really high score that way. So we now have 5 lights lit up. Feel like I've run out of my beginner's luck and I'm running out of steam on this table. Thoughts are getting a little bit wimpier. And if you start slowing down on a table like this, then you know you've lost some enthusiasm for the table, because this is a table that really only works if you're playing very fast and furious.
Super Jets.
Right out lane drain. We haven't seen too many of those, but we've seen enough. So over the course of that game, I got 6 out of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 goals. It just doesn't seem really doable. Let's see what we could potentially have changed on this table to make it a little bit more kid-friendly, because that's what I would think, is that this could be a very kid-friendly table. If you wanted to, if you just made it a little bit easier, but it does really get back to the angles. One thing I've been noticing is that like when you look at this table, there's just a lot of hex head screws holding things down, where previously those would have been they would have been flat-headed bolts screwed down with nuts on the other side. So maybe that was a cost-saving measure, or maybe there's another reason. Yeah, if we could just buy extra balls while playing the game and still get the wizard goals, or even if you buying extra balls eliminated you from the ability to get the wizard goals or the high score, I'd still want to have that as an option. It's just ridiculous that it doesn't exist. Race difficulty could be set down to easy. Several of these settings, if I really were going to think about them, could be adjusted. Giving them more time certainly would make more sense. I'd like to know what I did to actually go the wrong way. According to one game that I played, because it gave me a bonus for going the wrong way somewhere because of the way the pit went. And once again, whenever you have operator mode, even if you didn't change anything, it just totally doesn't work. It's literally just a simulation that doesn't work of what looking at the operator mode looks at. One thing I want to do here is I've managed to see someone play Black Lagoon, and Black Lagoon that they were playing had an LCD a color display instead of an LCD black and white display. And so I'm wondering, alright, we have a video mode. So it doesn't seem like you can get the gates to go that way. It doesn't seem like you can get the gates to go that way. The lane change on this table is terrible.
This driver could pit anytime, Paul.
So with ball control, I can potentially hit anything. Potentially.
Triple placement. field scoring.
That seems like that was really early to potentially get that.
That's 25 laps for driver 1. There's a pass by driver 1.
So, one question we would want to see here is just how many laps are necessary to get to first position if you're in 25th position.
There's a pass by driver 1.
Well, I suppose that means 25 shots up the lane
There's a pass by
when
driver
not
1.
in multi-ball. But even with ball control, see, that's not particularly easy to pull off. I don't even know where the ball is. I think I just accidentally flung the ball off the field. 20 positions. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's reasonable that you would be able to get that. And to get a pass, you have to go all the way
There's a
around
pass by driver 1.
because there's 2 sensors.
There's a
17.
pass by driver 1.
15. Still ridiculous. It feels like there should have been a way to increase your speed or something and pass a couple people at a time.
There's a pass by driver 1.
This is kind of a great example of why Indy 500 in itself is also just so boring, is because this is really emulating the experience of watching a Indy race, 500 laps to try and hope that someone could get from the 25th position to the first position.
That's 50 laps for driver 1.
And by the time you've done this, you're also getting laps. So it's giving you 2 fairly separate elements. Pay attention to the top left screen. You'll also see that it'll eventually cycle to its 4 seemingly focused on goals. And yeah, I'm at 90% position, 30% laps. So
There's a pass by driver 1.
there's clearly a lot more focus as far as, oh, this is just killing my thumb, as far as the number of laps. There, I made it to first position, which is 100. There's one lit up completely. It's another light up completely. Trying to hit the wrenches and avoid
Here's the
sinking
victory lap
down.
now. Driver 1 wins the 500.
So does that mean now I'm back to where I was before? I did not get the checkered flag for doing that.
Extra ball is good.
And getting the score multiplier is just going to kind of obviously give you a score multiplier.
Driver 1 has a ball in the turbo, Bobby.
Another one means a guaranteed multi-ball.
It's not what I meant to hit, but okay. What happens when I hit this? Well, that gave me a new lap, but it didn't turn it into a lane change. Still just trying really hard to get the ball. That lit up all three, and apparently moved the speed way up to 24%.
Pass the green car.
That's spelled in me. Got a wrench over here. Can we hit this wrench?
Whoa, there's the second lock.
We're ready for multi-ball. And here
So I guess I might as well just play multi-ball here and give my thumb a rest.
Either ramp is worth a jackpot.
I needed to have really looked at the instructions instead of cheating blindly.
extra ball. Jackpot. That's one.
See, I don't know if
Right
maybe
ramp is worth a jackpot.
there
Whoa,
should be
there's the second lock. Locking the third
Hey.
one means an outstanding jackpot.
Looks like someone kissed the wall on turn 2.
The driver's out and he is okay.
Right, so they want me to do an outstanding jackpot that way.
That's one. Super jackpot.
So hitting that
Whoa,
is the
there's the
super
second
jackpot.
lock. Locking the third one means an outstanding jackpot.
See, I don't know why you would call it an outstanding jackpot then, if it really is a super jackpot.
Jackpot.
The left
So,
ramp is
yeah.
worth a jackpot.
This once again feels like a scenario where your only shots are really just the same old dumb shots.
One.
Just let the ball in.
Turbo boost multi-ball.
Yeah, in one jackpot for another jackpot. Sure, why not?
That's 25 laps for driver 1.
This one, I think, actually is the mode you really need for the shots. They want you to hit this ramp, which I'm failing miserably to hit. Let's see if we can see what change setup does.
Super jets.
This is another example of a game where the late game content is so difficult to access that you have a high chance of never actually seeing it.
Wow! Dueling drivers.
Apollo's gonna try to pass at the end of the straightaway.
$20 million doesn't really mean anything.
Super light up.
There we've got here.
On point.
He's right on it. He could make a move anytime.
So they want me to make shots up the ramp.
He makes a move to the inside. And AJ slams the door on driver one.
Let's see what happens if we get the ball up the center shot lane. Come on. I know we can hit it. Must have ran out of time.
I can't believe it, Paul. That driver took the wrong turn.
He's heading out the tunnel and onto the street.
So the wrong turn must just be in mode. Interesting. And so we've got 3 remaining lights to light up. But they may prove to be pretty difficult modes. It kind of feels like these modes sort of happen on their own. There we've backdoored and cheated into a multi-ball.
We're ready for multi-ball, and here we go. Multi-ball.
So if it's not careful, it's gonna
Was worth a jackpot.
4-ball multi-ball on you. I don't think there's a real reason
That's one.
to play this mode too much though. This is the multi-ball mode. But I thought I had already got a super jackpot, so when this mode is done, it should be fine. So if I can just get up here. If I can just get the ball control to get the ball up there. That
We
should
go
light
now to Gasoline Alley.
the second to last thing.
Pass the green car.
Alright, so we've got a ramp and some blinking things. We're gonna have to try and get up the ramp some other ways.
What a move.
So now it just wants me to hit the ramp, which the right ramp is the one I keep missing.
75 laps for driver one.
Taking on fuel and fresh tires.
The blue car. Hurry. Hurry up.
So what are we trying to hit, the center shot?
Looks like they're having a little trouble getting to that ramp, Paul. 3 jackpots left.
So they want me to shoot up that
Jackpots
ramp
left.
for a hurry up jackpot.
Oh, what a hit on turn 4.
Push the pit lane.
Fairly nasty encounter with a wall on turn 3.
The driver got in. He is okay.
So we're still trying to, I guess, be done with this mission, which seems to want to have me hit the ball in a couple different places.
Driver 1 is making a run for the pole.
There are definitely some modes here where either you're going to run out of time or you're going to have to hit that right ramp. And if you can't pull off that shot, you're just doomed. See, we I guess by draining the ball now, are ready to start the final mission. But the percentage as far as everything we've gotten done, I think also is still far away from really where it should be. Like the light ups I don't think are at 100%, and the lane laps I don't think are anywhere close to it. Alright.
Head for the turbo.
Alright.
Here's the victory lap now.
Driver 1 wins the 500.
So is that the checkered flag?
Whoa, here's a bit of luck for driver 1.
Secret race mode. We're in the first position. We have 104 laps. Seems like we've got 5 million. Yeah, 30% of the light ups still need to be hit.
We're ready for multi-ball, and here we go. Multi-ball.
The right ramp is worth a jackpot.
So, what I probably need to do on this table would be to time it in such a way. See, that just reset everything. That gets light ups to 50. Speedway though is at like 5%, so I've really failed in any way to use that to an advantage or have anything that would light up things for me. And I say I failed, but I think the table kind of fails to give you an assistance if your ultimate goal is to do 100% of all 4 of those things for some kind of special. The fact that jets fly over sometimes in a display of Indy 500 is also kind of weird, considering how you could easily have an air race if it was allowed and have airplanes race each other, but I imagine that would be fairly difficult to watch and boring. And that's something where a video game probably would benefit people much more than the reality. I think once you've got these all lit up, you've pretty much gone as far as you can, so it's like hit each of these 4 times, 4 times, and that's another place where
Extra ball is lit.
that feels like that should be easier to pull off. Even with ball control and cheating, hitting these is very difficult, and I've had multiple multi-balls, and that hasn't really helped. I can try to practice the left lane shot here, and then every time I miss, theoretically, it would hit. It might hit one of them.
Here's a pit stop now.
That's right, Paul. Taking on fuel and fresh tires.
So you do get fresh tires, but not particularly easily enough.
3 jackpots lit.
Right now.
2 jackpots lit.
Today. Go.
Only 1 jackpot lit.
Push the pit lane.
So yeah, that undoubtedly is the quick pit section there. I just gotta let one of those drain. I can't control it. Alright. So that gets it to 80%. It's just a ridiculous number of times you would have to hit these. And I kind of am afraid that what this is all going to really end up doing is just locking out the ability to score anymore. Like Alien Attack from Mars was as a table. After you accomplished all the attacks, it just locked you out from being able to do it anymore, which that's no way to have a pinball play. Angles are still terrible. I'm literally trying for the ramp every single time. So that got that up to 100. So what's the speedway? I feel like speedway has to be up the ramp. But it doesn't seem like that does actually move it up the ramp. Indie souvenirs lit. And I may just have to look up what speedway is, because I think at this rate I'm not going to be able to actually get it anyways. Unless speedway is the ramp the other direction, which it might be. Does that move the speedway up?
We have a crash down here in turn 2, Paul.
Extra ball is lit. 50 laps to go for driver 1.
Yeah, speedway's at 32%. And I would need like more laps. And I'm not at 50 laps, I think I'm at 150 laps. The safest thing to do by far would be to send the ball up the center lane.
Head for the turbo.
That way I can get an extra ball before I do anything else, because that's easier said than done.
Here's the victory lap now.
Driver 1 wins the 500.
And an extra ball.
Triple playfield scoring. 40 laps to go for driver 1.
And that reset all the light ups. Interesting.
We're ready for multi-ball.
So
And here we go.
some things seem to be resettable, where the number of laps not so resettable. So maybe getting everything up to 100%, even though it's all on the same screen, is just not something that matters.
This is shaping up to be a really exciting multi-ball.
That's absolutely right, Paul. Every shot really counts now.
That's one.
Watch your lower right.
Whoa, there's the second lock. Locking the third one means an outstanding jackpot.
I suppose it's a slightly different pinball, multi-ball, because it gives you a third ball back if you're down to 2 when you do this.
Watch the ball launch.
Whoa, there's the second lock. Locking the third one means an outstanding jackpot.
There definitely is a point where you might
That's one.
have wanted to use the sound effect "watch the ball launch"
Whoa, there's the
in
second
more
lock.
tables.
Lock-
I feel like a lot of the concepts that these late 90s tables introduced probably got forgotten in the recession and the near complete death of pinball.
20 laps to go for driver 1. Here's a pit stop now.
That's right, Paul. Taking on fuel and fresh tires.
Pass the blue car.
I recently heard that, I think it's Formula One, but maybe it's a different racing people. They have a rule that you have to have a piece of wood attached to the bottom of your car during the race so it can be inspected later to make sure your car isn't so incredibly low to the ground for speed and balancing reasons that it's scraping on the actual cement or asphalt of the race way, which is a fairly basic solution to a problem. Feels like you could have something much more technical to assure the same thing, but you know, just a piece of wood might be the smarter move. Probably more cost efficient that way. Well, the way this is going, then I guess there's nothing more
The wall on turn 1.
That was
to
a
do.
nasty hit, Paul, but the driver's okay.
Doesn't seem like there is some kind of special
5 laps to go for
for
driver 1.
doing each of these.
Jackpot, Paul.
And if there
4 laps
is,
to go for driver
I'd have to
1.
do all the light ups again, and I'd still have to figure out whatever is getting the speedway up
3 laps to go
to
for
focus
driver
on
1.
that.
Dueling drivers.
Paul, he's gonna try
This
to pass.
dueling
at the
driver
straightaway.
mode.
Driver 1 moves up on mirrors.
He's right on him. He could make a move anytime.
Cheating here. How high is our score? 3 billion? And I don't know how many extra balls I've actually collected. I feel like some games get a little too crazy with the number of extra balls you can earn. And I wouldn't be super offended if it said you can only get 2 extra balls per ball, or even 1 extra ball per ball as a concept. It would be nicer if they explained how many extra balls you could earn. But generally I would make the assumption that I can only get 1 per ball, and maybe only 1 per game.
Driver 1 wins the 500. The yellow flag is out.
Now we're in
The
video
safety
mode.
crews are working on clearing the track.
Right. You gotta be really careful. See, it feels like there's just 3 lanes, a left, a right, and a center on that, but It seems like the trash covers more than one lane,
Well done.
which that feels weird.
Looks like someone kissed the wall on turn 2.
The driver's out and he is okay.
No,
We go
I'm
now
doing
to
is really
gasoline
just
alley.
playing now. Laps reset now. Yeah, things are just resetting. So there seems like only the far right one gets to 100% and stays at 100% and is just unlocked forever. So I don't think there is any more game here to be seen. And honestly, even if there is more game here to be seen, it's not going to be so amazingly great that it improves this game. This is very much just an average game in my
That's
book.
one.
I'm not hating it. I think there's the usual tweaks as far as angles, center pegs, kickback, at least left kickback. Would make a lot of sense. Thematically, there's some polish that could happen here. I would have tried to make a Micro Machines license deal and had them on the table. There is a Hot Wheels pinball table that is more recent, and that makes a lot of sense too. I could imagine a little kid going, "Oh, I know Hot Wheels, let me play this pinball," because of
And he's
that.
got the track record.
But yeah, there's nothing special about this table that would really make me want to come back and play it. Having two high scores, we've seen this in a couple of tables, and it feels ridiculous that you'd have to put in your initials twice. I also saw there's a Deadpool pinball table, and on that table, it actually lets you put in more than 3 letters for initials. Now, in all fairness, when watching that, they also mentioned Rick and Morty has some adult language if you don't have it in family mode. But in all fairness, the Deadpool table probably is not family friendly anyways in a lot of modes, so I wouldn't be surprised if you tried to type in something offensive in the... It looked like you had 12 characters that you could type in for your initials. Like, it probably would get stopped, or it probably wouldn't matter if it wasn't stopped. But then also, Deadpool's such a new table, and I think it connects to the internet and gets updates and probably shares the high score across the internet. I bet they just have a filter system built in, either online or not, to stop offensive words. Alright, so how do you earn the checkered flag? To award the checkered flag, shoot the speedway or start race when the checkered flag is next to speedway award. When the award speedway is lit, can't be started when go for the pole and multi-pole. So then you have to hit the center point for a victory lap. So I probably did accomplish that. Collecting souvenirs is a great way to accelerate the completion of light-up waves. To collect a souvenir, complete Indy in the in-lanes or out-lanes. This makes it easier to complete Indy. It has a lane change feature. Says it shifts the lit letters from left to right with either flipper. Once Indy has been completed, shoot the left lamp to earn a souvenir and a point value. Certain souvenirs also light ups to be completed with one hit. Souvenirs are awarded in the following order: T-shirt affects wave 1, toy car affects wave 8, teddy bear affects wave 2, baseball caps scores 20,000. Indie trophy scores 25 million. Mug effects wave 3 and 30 million. Keyring scores 35. Frisbee. This is way too many souvenirs. Every time I've seen a game with souvenirs, Red and Ted's was bad about that too. They think of too many collectibles, and it's like they're trying to turn it into an RPG for some reason. Videotape scores 45,000 points. The race cow affects wave 6. Once race cow has been completed, no more souvenirs are awarded. So race cow is the very last one. So let's just get all the souvenirs. Complete 200 laps. Shooting the left ramp or the right ramp or the right loop or the left ramp or the left loop. Get your laps. Hit that several times to get first place. We figured that out. And then Super Jackpot. I think we've seen that. If all 3 balls are shot into a turbo, yeah. So we've done everything. That there is no special thing, like special element. Yeah, I guess you would have to learn and read all these instructions if you really wanted to know how to activate everything. But a lot of these things, on almost any pinball table, you activate regardless of whether you know what you're doing or not. So, yeah. Without any risk of a drain, this mode can easily be worth 50 million points and eventually an extra ball. To make things a little easier, the oil spill obstacle does not always end video mode when hit. So how do you start caution video mode? It would be the question. Well, I don't even care to read, frankly. I couldn't care enough to read. By far, I would still prefer to just come in here and play High Speed 2. If I was going to have a car themed table, like this is still more about racing to me than that, because it has the shift up and down mechanic, which may be a little crazy, but I still kind of like it. It has the tachometer, RPM, you're shifting to different gears. There's a lot of artwork here that looks like a racetrack and cars, and there's the supercharger, which is a nice gimmick. They don't have to rip that off, but yeah, this is just way closer to an Indy 500 experience. It feels like an Indy 500 experience. The actual action of driving a car. And then I did want to check this and
my hero.
See, either there must have been a re-release or an aftermarket mod for what I was seeing, because clearly this is a dot matrix black and white monitor. So there must have been some modification to replace this with a TV monitor that is in full color, which that's kind of crazy. This was the exact same table though. I saw the person playing it in the real world. Either that or the worst case scenario is that actually this table never was an LCD matrix, and Pinball Arcade is just programmed so poorly that it can't have a color screen. If that were the case, then let's see.
You're getting old, Doctor.
This is
I'm
a
as old as time.
2016 pinball table. All right. This is a later Doctor Who than I thought it would be. See, no, this is still LCD screen. So can Pinball Arcade not do anything higher than an LCD matrix? One of these tables has to have, like, this would have been the most recent one.
Careful, the new guy dies first.
The whole controller's vibrating. Pro version not available, but by the looks of it, this is also an LCD screen. Interesting. So I'm going to have to do some research then, because it seems to me like even the newest of new tables like don't have LCD screens on Pinball Arcade, and something should have a regular, just standard display. Like, it makes no sense in like this table that would have been in the 2000s for it to not have a regular display and be in color. That makes no sense at all. Even if you were just trying to be nostalgic, there should be some table out there that would buck that trend. And
Live to ride, ride to live.
Yeah. I'm not seeing a single example. Alright, well, I'm going to have to research that. And that really highlights just how bored I am with Indy 500. Next time we play Jackpot, and then Frankenstein, then No Fear, then Theater of Magic. So we should have a decent table amongst these fives, a decent 2 or 3 tables, honestly. And like I said before, I don't hate Indy 500, but with the exception of Twilight Zone, between Teed Off all the way to this point, I've not really liked any of the tables a lot. I think the soccer table is about the best one we've seen, and I've completely forgotten Whitewater and Wipeout as an option. Attack on Mars is alright, but it's limited. Big Hurt's pretty terrible. Anyways, I guess that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and give me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.